to Inspiration Whisperers, where in a world that inspiration and purpose is so needed, we find the people that are living it so you can change your life. I'd like today to welcome everyone and welcome Dr. Lance Secretan, who is somebody I've known for quite a little while here and fascinating, has done heaps of research in inspiration and on this topic, written many books. The latest book was The Bellwether Effect. One of my favorites as well is The Love Story, The Spark, The Flame, and The Torch, which really has inspired this show in many ways. One, and inspiration, and many more books, but these are just a list of the few, as well as the creator of Higher Ground Leadership and really working with leaders to become inspired. And so, Lance, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show with us today. And I just want to, ask you that question. When did inspiration come into your life? When did you figure out that this was a really important thing?
Well, Rachel, good to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I don't know there was ever a sort of epiphany moment. I'm a pretty practical person, and I've noticed what doesn't work. And I've used that formula for most of my life. If things aren't working, I kind of wonder why. I wonder, can we do the opposite? So leadership isn't working. Motivation isn't working. That leaves us inspiration. So that's where I landed.
Beautiful. So tell us about you have so much great information about inspiration, but so many people don't know how to even become inspired. They feel like it's this elusive, cloud in the sky. Right. And what would you tell the audience about inspiration and what it is?
Well, there are, in my way of looking at things, which is not the only way, but way I've discovered, there are three ways to do this, three consecutive steps. The first is to become inspired yourself. The second is to inspire others. And the third is to inspire the world. So you can't do the second two unless you do the first one first. In other words, you can't inspire other people if you're not inspired. You can do it for a while, you can fake it, but eventually you can't give what you don't have. So starting with yourself, we have three things that we like to focus on to help people become more inspired. One, identify your destiny, your character, and your calling. In other words, why are you here? What are you going to be doing with your life? And how will you be? What are the values that you admire and want to live? Secondly, what's the dream for you? What's the dream that you hold in your life? And thirdly, what are the inspiring relationships that you have in your life and how you make them more inspiring? People who know why they're on the planet, that also have a dream and have great relationships, they're inspired.
Absolutely. You do so much inspiring work for so many people. And our audience can go to Secretan.com to find out more about you. Absolutely. But what's the most inspiring thing you feel you do out there in the world today?
Well, I think for all of us, we're all probably inspired the same way. I love to work with people and see their lives change. I like to see them get a spring in their step, especially now. We're doing so much of this work during the pandemic. And almost every day, I'm getting calls from people saying, my team is burned out, I need help. And that's what we're doing. We're helping them. And it's amazing. It's not difficult. It's easy. No, I shouldn't say that. It's simple. It's not easy. Simple. But it's simple. It's straightforward. And it's not rocket science.
No, having to have a brother who's a rocket scientist, I agree. It's not rocket science. Absolutely. You have the book, The Bellwether Effect, and I think it's going to really, for the people that read it, really open up an awareness of what it's like in the workplace. And, what triggered this book from, being written? When did you come across, hey, this is something that needs to get out there for awareness to create inspiration in a different way?
Well, my work basically has been, for the last 40, 50 years, has been about leadership, teaching leaders, leading companies, teaching at university, writing books, etc. And one of the things I've noticed in leadership thinking and books is there are two sort of genres, two big buckets. One is, I was a great leader, I led a big company, and now I'm going to share my story with you, blah, blah, blah. Usually those are written by ghostwriters, not by the person themselves, and usually it's a puff book, a vanity book about how wonderful that person was. The other kind of book is, I've researched 20,000 companies using public data, and here's the research analysis of what makes for great leaders. So statistically based or ego based, I guess you could say. So what struck me is two things. One, we very seldom ask people what's not working. I mentioned this earlier. I love this as a technique to get to what's going on here. What's not working? And the second thing that puzzled me was that we always talk about adding things. You've got to do these 10 things, or this thing, or you've got to behave this way, or study this book, or whatever. But we don't talk often about taking things away. And the bellwether effect is about removing things, removing all the things that piss people off. So whenever I speak to a large audience, which I haven't done since COVID, but on the internet, of course, but not physically, I ask this question: what proportion of the population do you think would give up their day jobs if they had a free choice? And the answer, I try not to jimmy the answer because I don't want to skew the data.
Right.
I start off by saying, do you think it's 50%? And somebody will say, no, it's 60. And someone else, no, it's 70. And someone else will say, no, it's 80. And we always end up at 80. So here we are, 80% of the population would give up their day jobs if they had a free choice. There's something wrong with that. And the bellwether effect is saying these are the things we're doing that's creating a place where 8 out of 10 people would quit if they could. This is the horror of what we've created in corporate America.
And by looking at that, you would say that people in corporate America are not inspired. They are missing out on, the thing that keeps us going and living.
Most people.
Yeah.
Just a job and a paycheck for most people. I mean, there are 8 things I read about in the bellwether effect that are uninspiring. One of them is performance appraisal. There's absolutely no evidence to say this works. All the research shows it's terrible. People hate it. Nobody likes doing them. Nobody likes having them done to them. And there's no evidence that it actually supports or grows anything or makes performance higher. 80% of employees who have a performance appraisal suffer immediately afterwards from a decline in performance. Why would we be so stupid as to do something to someone which then sabotages their performance? 60% of people who have performance appraisals say that they or think that they are in the top 20% of employees. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out either. That was a bad math. That didn't work well. Right? So we have a situation where we're doing stupid things which really irritate people, demoralize them, and cost a lot of unnecessary money. So why don't we stop that? That's just one. And the second thing I'd say about this is that one of the tests I have for inspiration is this question: would you do this with your spouse? So, would you have a performance appraisal with your spouse? Like, hi, honey, it's that time of the year. We're going to be talking about your key performance indicators and a little 360. We'll talk about your budget and some prospects for next year and so on. I mean, you'd get about one word out of your mouth and you'd be out of the door. Why? Because it's just demeaning, it's critical, it's judgmental, it's horrible, it's unnecessary, and you'd never do that. Because you don't want to insult that person. Well, if you don't want to do it at home, why would you do it at work?
Exactly. And the person immediately feels attacked.
Yeah.
It's and which, when you feel attacked, you get anxiety and stress, and that doesn't bode well for any relationship. I think about the days that I did performance reviews when I worked in corporate America, and I did them and received them. And it was a very stressful on both ends. Like, oh gosh, how are they going to take this? And oh gosh, I don't want to take this.
Right. Yeah, horrible.
Yeah.
So this is an example of how we create uninspiring environments. There are lots more, but those are the kinds of things we're doing which are foolish. And the bellwether is simply, the question is, why do we do it? And the answer is because everybody else does it. There's no
Absolutely.
logical reason. You don't do it because of some pragmatic outcome. You do it because, well, I'd be considered to be an idiot if I didn't do performance appraisal. Everybody would judge me and criticize me, and I get so I was going to do it.
Oh, it's so sad. So they have to make a change. How does this change happen? How do they, move from, well, just because everybody else is doing it, I can do something different. How does that, what needs to happen?
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting is we need to look at the whole idea of what we have created in the way of a sort of cultural norm for business. I did a study of Google words that are used to describe great leaders. And typically you get great decision maker, motivator, team builder, visionary, strategic thinker, and so on. And then I did another study about what do people think describe a great personal relationship, a romantic relationship. Compassionate, passionate, loving, fun, playful, honest, truthful, promise-keeping, intimate, humble, vulnerable. These are the kinds of words that we use, right? So
Right.
how does this work? Do we get up in the morning and say, goodbye, honey, I'm going to be decisive, visionary, strategic thinker, motivator, team builder. And hi, honey, I'm home again. I'm going to be intimate, passionate, loving, fun, and playful. I don't think that's possible. Human beings can't just flip-flop like that. Right.
Yeah,
so,
there's a miss.
one thing. Let's do the one thing. And the one thing is to be intimate, to be vulnerable, to be compassionate, caring. We're working on the wrong stuff. If we want to inspire people, then care for them. If you want to demoralize them, then give them another course or another PowerPoint or another meeting or another boring performance appraisal.
Oh, yeah. And keep going down where 80% or more of the population doesn't want to go to work anymore.
Right.
If they could quit, they would.
Right.
Wow. This is, if this could get, and it will, partly because of the show, if more people could hear this, the average person could hear, hey, we need to make some changes here. What a revolution. And it's interesting to use that word because it kind of has that same performance review feel, revolution, but what a change that could bring to people. In Lance's future world, what does it look like?
Well, there are two words that we'll use a lot in the business setting that we don't use now. One would be love. We can't say that word in the business setting. And yet the same rule applies. We're human beings and we want to be loved. It didn't say, but not between 9 and 5. That's not in the small print. We want to be loved 24/7. Nobody said not at work. So when are we going to wake up and understand human beings want to be loved? The most important experience for a human being is to love and be loved. And we want that everywhere in our lives, and we will go looking for it too. So people will quit companies where they feel they're not loved, and they'll go and find companies where they feel they are loved. Now, this is very, how can I say this? We won't say loved, but they feel appreciated. But I think they want something stronger. They want love. And people will do anything for someone that they love. Now, the second thing we need to think about is spirituality. There's no sense of spiritual thinking in the modern organization. What's the higher purpose? What's the bigger outcome? What are you doing about the planet, about other people? What's the real mission of your business in the sense that it needs to make the world a better place than it is right now? These thoughts are not really in the modern lexicon of business. So those are the two things I'd like to see more of in the future.
Absolutely. And the love is so massive that, people get hung up because of the word that it, means with relationships. But at the same time, we still say, I love this food. Why can't I just say, I love this person?
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that. And there is a big gap there in our language. And I believe you're right. It's beyond appreciation. It is being loved. And when you do, the loyalty, like you said, is everlasting. There are no limits to that loyalty when they feel appreciated in that loving way. Wow.
We as you know, we use an app we have developed called the Spirit at Work Cards app, which is available on the Android and Apple platforms. And we had a senior leadership team in last June where we meet once a week on Zoom and we go through the cards together and talk about those cards. And they were having the worst year in their history in June. By September, 13 weeks later, they were having the best year in their history. And there's only one difference, like the environment was exactly the same. The only difference was that they loved each other. Those 13 weeks, we went so deep. People got to know each other in such a profound way. Their dreams, their pain, their health issues, their relationships, what's going on with their kids, their third distant relationships with their families and so on, their divorces, all the rest of it. So things we don't normally know about each other, but when we do, we become real, we become connected, and we fall in love with each other. Now, when we're in love with each other, synergy happens. In other words, I want to help you, even though I'm never going to see you, at least not for months because of COVID, and we're on Zoom, but I'm going to see you on Zoom, but I want to help you. You're part of my team. I know something that I think would be useful for you. Now, when you collaborate, all kinds of things happen. But that wasn't happening before. So the only thing that's different is how much we love each other. Any team that loves each other passionately, and we both know what we mean. We don't mean they're getting into bed with each other. But we mean like brotherly love or sisterly love. So that kind of connection with others makes a powerful team. They're the best teams in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has, for me, in rare situations, I've had that cohesiveness in the corporate office and even nonprofit office. I have to say, I've worked in a lot of nonprofits. It really takes a strong leader, a leader that wants this and embraces this method to bring this in. But when it happens, everybody will go to bat for everybody all the time, and your productivity in our offices shot through the roof because we saw, oh, well, they need help. Well, I can do that part. And then when I need help, so nothing fell behind and was at a loss.
Right.
Totally different. And I have to say that if anybody in our audience wants the Spirit of Work cards, like Lance said, please look them down. I'll show you a picture of the app here. I have it on my phone right here. You can see it's just matches Lance logo in the corner there. It is a beautiful app. I like to use it with my clients and just for me, just every day, because it brings inspiration into my life to go, hey, this is something to focus on today. And it does remind you to go right into, what is my purpose here on this planet? And I think if people come with that every day in their lives, if they come with purpose, and whether it's what the card says, the intention creates inspiration. And people, and Lance, I know you coach a lot too, and I often get this question like, what's my purpose? How do I find my purpose? And, I feel, and you can chime in here, Lance, I feel some of that is a choice. You choose your purpose. You choose what you want to go for. Don't let some strange thing fall from the sky and tell you what your purpose is. There's a beautiful choice. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have a process. We call it the why we do, because we want to answer three questions. Why are you here? Why? How are you going to be while you're here? Be. And what are you going to do while you're here? Do. Destiny, character, and calling. And in the research we've done, every great leader knew the answer to those questions. The strange thing is that if you don't know the answer, and most people don't, and many people die without knowing the answer to those questions. But when you know the answer, and when you have that deeply embedded inside you, you become an inspiring person. So I often say to people, if the Dalai Lama walked into this conversation and sat in a corner somewhere, said nothing for 10 minutes, got up, walked out again, we would be inspired. because of what he stands for, why he's here, how he's going to be, and what he does. He doesn't need to say anything. His presence and the purpose of his life is already inspiring. That's where we need to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people can go and look at, again, Secretan.com to look at the why we do and contact Lance directly for more information. It is a beautiful process. It has helped hundreds and hundreds of probably thousands of people, and probably more. Lance, I'm probably understating it here. So I know I use it with my clients. So it's a beautiful, beautiful process. And what is gained from this is massive, and how they learn to be authentic in their lives by this process, I think is so powerful. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I hope more people find their way to your website and learn about this. So now with what's going on in COVID and so many people at home, and you talked about it, you alluded to it, that we're really working with a lot of people in this very stressful time. What would you say is the one component that you would like the audience to be able to walk away with today that would help find their way to inspiration?
Well, I think that if we are in a leadership role, for example, and by that I don't just mean management, but I mean parents, and I mean all kinds of people, then what I've noticed recently in the last few months is a very strong focus on the mechanics. We want to teach our employees to be better at customer service, or we want to teach them the technology of running Zoom meetings, or we need to show them how to use new software because they're working from home and so on. All technical stuff. That's not what people want. They can figure that out. You can Google this stuff. That's just not difficult. What they want is compassion, care, empathy. They want to know that you've got their back, that you're encouraging them, that you're supporting them. And they want you to ask questions, not tell them stuff. They want you to ask, are you okay? Do you need help? What can I do to serve you? What can I do to support you? So in other words, we're working on the wrong stuff. We're working on stuff instead of the connection that we have together. The example I would use is dieting. We have this resolution we do every year, beginning of the year. We make the resolution and then we don't do it. I don't need anybody to tell me about a diet, or what diet I should be looking into, or what book I should be reading about dieting. I know how to diet. I just don't want to. As soon as I want to, in other words, as soon as I'm inspired, I will diet. I don't need to know the technical details of dieting. I know this already. Don't tell me about customer service. I know how to serve customers. I just don't want to. But when you create the environment, a spiritual, loving, inspiring environment, I'll do anything.
Absolutely. And that's what we want for ourselves and others. So, great. Thank you so much, Lance, for today. I really appreciate you being here. And like I said, you are the inspiration for this show. So thank you for being one of our participants. And please, anybody who's watching this, look at Lance's website. There's a wealth of information, Secretan.com. And yes, thanks again, Lance. Thank you, everyone, for watching Inspiration Whispers. In a world where purpose and inspiration is so needed, we find the people that are living it, and we help you change your life.